Welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining today's space for an important presentation. The format that I'm going to try to stick to, and one in which we will do for all future communication spaces such as this with shareholders, investors, creators, and generally interested people, will be one in which I will open up with my general remarks on the company and our strategic vision, followed by my answering the top 3 or 4 questions that we have received in DMs over and over again this past week leading up to today's call. And then I will open up the mic to any question from anyone, as much as I can take. And then if there are no more questions, we'll move back to some extra ones that were part of the DM questions that we've taken in previously. So let's get going. It's no secret that the shifting financial landscape is demanding forward thinkers and adaptive leadership. It is what I call a new era of risk-taking, and it's one that will look very different than the last. It will be filled with transparency from blockchain and, equally important, financing alternatives to an upside-down capital markets that self-perpetuates failure in small and microcap companies. Created Inc., the holding company, whose flagship subsidiary is VOCL Inc., beyond just reporting second quarter 2023 numbers, is signaling a new direction to its investor community. We're pivoting, we're strategizing, and we're designing a new future for the company, one where our assets are not synthetically depressed and are recognized for the genuine value they hold. We are looking for long-term investors and not the residual fast money from an era of pumps and dumps that is coming to an end. VOCL Inc., created subsidiary, is a social publishing platform and has become a true powerhouse in its own right. So we're positioning it to independently raise capital from the created holding company. And with an intrinsic value that we estimate for VOCL Inc. to be between $60 million and $100 million. Now, to offer some perspective on that, competitors like Medium and Substack have comparable revenues and are literally being valued at $500 million or more in the private market. But before we go into our strategic plan for Created and how we intend to increase shareholder value, let's talk about Created's second quarter earnings directly. As we reflect on the first half of 2023, VOCL's accomplishments underscore our drive and determination in the creator economy. Our gross quarterly revenues of $800,000 signal an actual upward growth trajectory for the VOCL platform in particular. More comprehensively, the trailing 12-month GAAP-adjusted revenues tallied at a near impressive $4 million. Now, despite witnessing a decline in quarterly revenues at the holding company, the public entity Created Inc., it's essential to understand that this is part of a strategy to leverage the most profitable segments of our business and close down the unprofitable ones. I am very comfortable sacrificing the top line a bit for significant bottom line improvements, and then privatize the assets and begin to grow new and more appropriate revenues. Our strategic decision, including reducing headcount at both the performing and the non-performing subsidiaries, has resulted in a very significant 56% reduction in payroll. We project even more cost savings from payroll reduction in quarters ahead. And as we move within a few months of cash flow break even on a forward basis for VOCL Inc., the subsidiary, and its flagship technology platform VOCL, we are very excited. By optimizing our operations, we've achieved a 60% reduction in our legal, accounting, and consulting fees. Now, on a pure comparative basis, the revenues of our core VOCL tech platform are seeing consistent patterns of accelerated growth. The revenues we left behind from businesses we shelved were simply too expensive to maintain. And like other tech companies in our space, we are focused only on core revenue growth as we face tough headwinds in the market. Our strategy is guided by a clear principle: to pursue business we know we can scale. We follow the data, and the data says and has always said that the key to our success lies in the creator. As more of our creators become investors, it is important for us to hold these spaces to open a direct line of communication between creators, investors, creator investors, and the company. Now, before we go to Q&A, I want to address the key questions that so many of you have DM'd me. A question that not a day goes by that I don't encounter as we continue to fight the war of attrition in the public market with our stock, and rightfully so, I get asked this question, is Jeremy, what is your plan to stop dilution and increase shareholder value? I'm going to try to give a very straightforward answer, and then I will elaborate on it. The basic answer is we intend to bring a significant portion of our portfolio under a private umbrella that can raise capital separately as its own entity. And you don't have to be a created shareholder to buy a piece of VOCL Inc. This will open up the funding market for the technology platform to our 2 million creators and their audiences, as well as the growing investor community around Reg CFs and Reg As. And that's the beauty of the Reg CF. It creates that direct line I mentioned earlier. It's a transparent connection between the investor community and management without the disruption and obstacles of middlemen and toxic lenders. Now, further to the original question, how can we control dilution? Well, controlling the dilution and increasing the value remains a crucial matter to us. We are the largest investors in our own company, the people that are a part of this company. And it is at the heart of our strategy and remains a top priority in our decision making. A company's lifeblood has classically been its ability to tap legacy capital markets to drive growth. But that just does not work anymore. Those markets are broken. Look at BuzzFeed, trading at less than 50 cents, about to face the same reversal dilemma so many stocks do. Or look at the great WeWorks, trading at 20 cents and recently named a meme stock. Or even Vimeo, a tremendous piece of video distribution technology that was spun out of Barry Diller's IAC. It faces the same struggles we do. How can we create alternative financing services for these great tech companies that can power growth and innovation without destroying their common equity? And that is how we're doing it. We are employing a strategy that shifts away from financing that hinges on diluting the public equity of created the holding company. This isn't a decision made lightly. It's the culmination of a great deal of analysis. And so the spotlight now turns to VOCL Inc., Created's flagship social publishing platform subsidiary. Our roadmap for VOCL Inc. is crystal clear. Secure a robust $5 million via Reg CF, participating preferred securities offering, as well as taking capital directly from strategic partners. This is not just a fundraising exercise. It's a strategic move where we aim to eventually spin off VOCL and maintain an ownership of slightly under 50% at the holding company level, such that VOCL Inc. can become its own independently traded equity, and Created Inc. can become what it was initially intended to be, which was a holding company utilizing the combined resources of multiple companies within its portfolio. The next question that we must address then is, if we're correct and a Reg CF and the IPOing of VOCL are correct, how will that elevate the value of Created Inc.'s publicly traded stock? When we look at Created stock, or even the company, bear in mind VOCL Inc. is just one subsidiary that we plan to monetize by privatizing enough such that we can eventually spin it out as a separate publicly traded company. We plan to do the same thing with the OG collection, Created Ventures and Orbit. Each of these subsidiaries boasts unique assets, technologies, and business strategies and are ready to maximize their value. In today's market, I have said this on multiple occasions, it is one of the most important points, I think, for all microcap and small cap stocks to think about. The individual pieces of a business in today's market are of greater value than the sum of the whole in one company. Here's how Created Inc. stock maximizes that value in real terms. Imagine a conservative valuation for the technology platform VOCL of $50 million and taking in $5 million from a financing of VOCL Inc. That's less than 1/10 of the value of one of our comps, Substack, which I hope some of you have heard, which recently raised $7.8 million via a Reg CF to its creator community at a $585 million pre-money valuation. They do similar revenues to VOCL. This would be the same story if you looked at other comps such as Medium and Wattpad. All of them, $500 million plus valuations in the private market. Now, taking a closer look, if we modestly value Created Ventures, our portfolio of 4 consumer packaged foods and beverages, at $8 million, selling half of that would yield $4 million. Factor in the OG collection's solid $12 to $15 million valuation, or Orbit's $3 to $4 million valuation, and these numbers start to add up. Essentially, Created Inc. could, in theory, take in well over $10 million in cash from the sale of assets, clean its balance sheet, and still be left with a portfolio of material investments and holdings in multiple publicly traded companies, verifiably valued at up to $60 million. A more genuine reflection of what the market cap should be. Created Inc. stock, without the burdens of the operational businesses and the clearing of $5 million in debt from its balance sheet, could have a portfolio with that implied value of $60 million, far exceeding the current market value of $4 million and a trading price of 3 cents. Like I said before, the sum of the individual parts of a company are now worth more than they are to the whole. We have a clear plan. Our threefold approach to increase shareholder value and prevent dilution includes wisely reorganizing our assets, moving to privatization when it's beneficial, and strengthening our financial position. We aim not just to follow a path, but to lead by example and break the toxic lending structures that have destroyed the entrepreneurial spirit of the micro and small cap public markets. Another frequently asked question I hear is, Jeremy, when is the OG dividend going to occur? We've been talking about it a long time. It takes a long time to get these things done when you've got so many other things you're also trying to do. But things are moving forward, and we will be putting out a separate press release soon to clarify the details. But I can give on this space a general understanding of what's happening. Our leadership team is now discussing a possible timeline, a probable timeline, for September or October to set a definitive record date that gives a clear view of our share count for the upcoming special dividend of the OG Collection, Inc. Shareholders will need to have a stake and ownership in created the holding company at least 2 days before the record date to qualify. After the record date, usually within 60 days, Created Inc.'s shareholders will receive their OG Collection Inc. shares. Details about the exact distribution per share will be announced soon after the record date. These dividends will become initially restricted shares in the OG Collection. We will then begin a separate Reg CF for that entity's privatization raise. And then we will distribute over 50% of the OG Collection Inc. to the shareholders of the record date. And like VOCL, once Created owns less than 50% of the OG Collection, we would immediately look to list the OG Collection on a public exchange. Finally, after VOCL Inc. and OG Inc.'s initial corporate actions, we will have the blueprint for replicating and scaling this process. And this would include earlier, as I said, extending the model to our consumer product e-commerce division, Created Ventures. As well, we will consult other companies on the path forward through CEO Block. And CEO Block brings me to the next question that I hear. I find most often this question comes from the Twitter community, the X community. Jeremy, what is going on with the naked shorting? And what are you doing with CEO Block? In the near future, we aim to unify 2 of our subsidiaries, CEO Block and Orbit, a social investor platform acquired by Created in 2022. By integrating CEO Block's activist leadership with the Orbit app's direct connection to the investor community, we are crafting a platform, an app, that stands at the front of retail investor advocacy and transparency. That is my goal. This would be more than just a technology platform. It would aim to be a transformative movement designed to redefine the investment community for financial education and communicating ideas, all while pursuing a strategy of generating revenue and creating value for shareholders. By its very nature, the success of the strategies I have discussed in today's space could define the path forward for thousands of other companies with great business models, but balance sheets filled with toxicity and a market where the traditional financing model is broken. To further elaborate, Reg CF, Reg A corporate actions of spin-offs and special dividends of legitimate subsidiaries from public companies will have the combined effect of generating value for shareholders and ultimately defeating and putting to rest the naked short selling problem. And that's how we expect to fight against the naked short sellers. Now, at this time, I'm going to open up the call to questions. I haven't taken a look to see if there have been in the chat room or anybody would like to take the mic. But whatever questions you have, please either raise your hand, ask for the mic, and my co-host will offer you the mic, or there's just questions that I could continue with.
La Jolla requested the mic.
Please. Hi, La Jolla.
La Jolla International Fashion Film Festival.
Oh, the La Jolla International Fashion Film. I'm familiar with the La Jolla Fashion and Film Festival. I'd love to hear. How are you? You made speaker, but
Their speaker, the mic is muted.
you want to unmute their mic?
They have to do that.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Hey.
Jeremy.
Hey, how are you?
Oh, good. Yeah, you sound fabulous. I mean, you sound like you really know what you're talking about, which gives me confidence. So thank you.
I appreciate that. I work real hard to try to be transparent to the investors, and as I've said on many occasions, I think the most important thing any CEO can do is try to educate their shareholders, tell them the truth so that they're not influenced by a world of untruths. But thank you very much.
Yeah, my quick question is, if you're a person that's not really into the technical aspects of equities and what you're talking about, would it be fair to say it's a good idea just to hold on to the stock we have? Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I don't have to do anything.
Yes.
Right? I can just keep it.
Yeah, look, I have no idea why what I believe is they're retail sellers who are selling the stock at 3.5 cents. And I know it's not, at this down here, it's not the naked shorting, because you can tell if you're a trader and you know it. And it feels very desperate. Someone said to me at the end of the day the other day that that they sold enough shares to get them bus fare. Like, it doesn't make sense when a company has been beaten to submission but won't give up. It does not make sense to sell it there. That said, people need money to pay rent sometimes. That's the thing about retail investors. Sometimes, they're not structured as a portfolio, and one position can become so severely damaging. And I appreciate, and my heart goes out to them. But I think what an investor today should do is stick to their position, but the only place to add will be in the Reg CF. I mean, you can buy the public stock, which I certainly recommend is very undervalued, but it'll be super undervalued super like bionic undervalued if we are successful with our Reg CF. And a Reg CF, people can participate for $100, $500, $1,000, $5,000, $10,000. I have many friends, many family, and many of our creators that are going to fund by taking an ownership stake in VOCL Inc. And now by doing that, that will allow me to clean up the balance sheet of the holding company, and it will allow me to be able to go pay back some of the debt, which will literally lead to an elevation in created stock. It has to, meaning the only reason that created stock goes down at this moment is because the market doesn't believe that you could gain, and it's not just my stock, it's thousands of stocks, but the market, rightfully so, does not believe that the decade-old way of financing this space can be done anymore. And it can't be. The horror stories I hear out there, it's terrible. I've never seen a more destructed market space than this market space in 32 years of business. So I appreciate the question. My answer would be hold on to your stock, wait for details on the Reg CF, and I look forward to doing a space like this to exactly explain the Reg CF in more detail, because by buying into the Reg CF, that's what saves your position in the common stock. And it sounds more complex than it is. It just will take a lot of time for me to educate. John.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you. John Shankman, how are you?
I'm good, Jeremy. How you doing?
Very good. John, just so people on the call know, John's one of the smartest individuals I know when it comes to sort of the marketing and advertising world of the internet. And I'm happy to have you have joined today, John.
Yeah. Thanks for sending out the email, and I've always appreciated, kind of along with what the La Jolla Film Festival is just saying. You're able to articulate things well, and I think you understand the mechanics of the equity market well. My question, again, honestly, I'm in this for publishing, and obviously, the new version of publishing is creators, and I think that's where you guys are focusing. But I just wanted to get your take on ad tech lately. You know, obviously the Trade Desk stock is doing pretty well, and you know, what's your larger view on, you know, ad tech as an equity, and you know, obviously more specifically how you're thinking about that at Created today.
Absolutely. It's always ironic. My partner and co-founder Justin and I, who John knows as well, are always trying to stay on top of what we see happening in the space, right? And we literally have had this dialogue over the last couple of days. It's really amazing that it gets brought up like this. In the beginning, as you know, I was very, and still am, the biggest believer that the best way to absorb branded anything, or particularly branded content advertising, is through a long form type of process that we do with VOCL. But that said, that type of communication for a brand is only one piece of the puzzle. And that brand has to take today, and it's not just that brand, every company has to take its marketing at an omni-channel level approach. I happen to think between what we do, social media and programmatic advertising, that together it's what creates the magic sauce. And so you can't really not do any of them if you want to be successful today. And that led us, when it talks specifically to Created, I was saying that I have a viewpoint as a guy who used to trade cable stocks in the back end of the 90s, that programmatic advertising kind of has found a bottom and may even be troughing a bit, because it's able to be done itself. Technology is advanced such that both the aesthetics of it as well as the targeting is, yeah, it can still be kind of in your face, but it's in your face more to the right people because the data has been able to be as refined as it has. And so I kind of look at the cable companies as an interesting way of looking at programmatic advertising and the roll-up of the cable companies that have occurred throughout the 90s and 2000s and always created what were very good revenues. And even today, I heard radio stations are coming back. But look, we've always been focused on our organic growth. So we see value in the future of attracting new creators via the combo of social content marketing, and obviously the type of more direct programmatic advertising that you and many of your peers pursue. Does that kind of help answer how we see it, John?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, yeah, I think that does definitely answer it. Thank you.
You're quite welcome.
J.R. Ewing.
JR. I love JR Ewing. He always has a good question, and on Twitter is always very straight to the point and honest with his perceptions of our company. JR, what can I answer today? I think you're muted still. JR, you're muted.
You're still connecting.
Oh, still connecting. I see a couple other very important people on this call today.
David Shalev adding as a speaker.
Very good. David, nice to hear from you. I'm beginning to see success in this concept, Robbie, that we really are, the shareholders and the investors and the creators are truly joining the call to get to the proper answers. I can anticipate some of David's.
David has the mic and JR will come back afterwards.
Wonderful. David, you have the mic? He still looks like he's muted on it.
There we go. Can you hear me?
I sure can, David. Thank you for joining today.
Yeah, I was a little bit late, so I didn't catch a good chunk of the beginning. But you know me, I'm kind of a broken record, so I'd like to go back to a couple of questions ago where the gentleman asked your advice on current stockholders, or for current stockholders. I have a similar question for current warrant holders. Any kind of insight into, I mean, obviously the OTG spinoff is not going to do any good for warrant holders. So I'd like some overview from you.
I don't know that that's the truth. Meaning, the thing about the OG spinoff is the finality of it has not been written in stone. And so I'll give you one scenario where I could see something like that, right? I could theoretically say to a warrant holder, look, I'm going to lower your warrant strike down to where it's much more attractive for you. And if you then are to be a participating investor in our VOCL Inc. Reg CF, I can award that warrant holder something specific for participation in it. That's the thing about a Reg CF. You can treat different people, not different people, different tier structures based on value and based on what their positions are. But I think my plan has always been with the warrant holders to figure out a way in which I can both lower those strikes, because in the end, when the stock goes up, those people become a funding source for the company, which is the one time that it makes sense, because the company takes in cash at a real valuation.
Obviously, I mean, that would be wonderful, and clearly you haven't come to any conclusions on that yet, but it's being considered?
Yes,
If
absolutely.
I'm hearing you correctly, to lower the price?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Across, I mean, look, across.
Jeremy can't hear anything?
You can't hear me? Can you hear me? Can you guys hear me? So, David, I think that's just specific to you that you can't hear me, but I'll reiterate the answer to the question. Thank you, Tallfire, for letting me know you can hear me. It seems like David got maybe disconnected, but there is an ongoing plan to address any aspect of the cap structure, including the warrants that are out of the money. Because in the end, my objective is to have a shareholder base of long-term shareholders. And the warrant holders, if they're anything, they've demonstrated a tremendous patience, because they've unfortunately been hurt by where the strike is. And so it's not just that we're having discussions, it is my intention, for the record, to lower those warrant holder strikes and to create an opportunity that is, I know even now I can hear in my head of compliance and one of my most trusted finance people, she's thinking, is that possible? How can we do that? You know, how can we create an offering that's specific to participation potentially in our Reg CF? But I would probably say that warrant holders like yourself, and you're on my list, should know that I have you on my mind. I'm always upfront with people. I am not going to abandon. I'm not going to abandon my stock at 3 cents. I'm not going to abandon my shareholders. I am the biggest shareholder. I own a ton of warrants also, David. And so that's my intention with the warrants. JR, are you back on and able to speak?
Yeah, I apologize. I had a connection issue. So, Jeremy, it's clear that you have multiple plans in place and have been obviously working hard. So thank you for that. And I also apologize if I missed this. I was having connection issues. What is the timeline for the Reg CF, and what is the plan what do you intend to use those funds for? Is it all to pay off debt, or
No. First of all, only meaning the Reg CF can go up to $5 million. And so, my plan is to see, as I have mentioned, I have very good relationship with all my creditors, except one really. But you always have one guy it's going to be difficult to deal with. But in the end, I have very good relationships with all of them. And they're very much akin to working out strategies where, the majority of the capital raised goes into the VOCL platform and its development, and that over time, whether it's 30% or 35% of that money gets swept out to pay down the debt, to clean up the balance sheet, to elevate the stock. As far as timing, I mean, I'm now going to have to immediately sit down with my head of compliance, who I just mentioned, so that I can immediately 8K what I'm about to say. I'm expecting tomorrow morning to put out, I'm going to have to be very careful as I see her watching me. I plan on launching the Reg CF tomorrow morning. And I plan on being the first person to go through the experience and buy stock, buy $5,000 of the preferred stock directly in our tech company tomorrow morning. Presuming that were the case, JR, then I would say I'm going to put out a press release right after I see that it successfully worked, and I will 8K this conversation that articulated my intention of doing that tomorrow morning to test it. And then we're live with it. This is not something, one of the things that happens, JR, I've learned, is I'll tell people something that we're planning, like even the OG, which we can take any questions about from anybody. But, it's been such a crazy hard year to sit in management seat at these companies. I mean, the thousands that have been just destroyed. And the truth is that it takes a while to put a plan in place. And when I first started getting more known as a retail CEO who communicates this way with their shareholders, I told you back in that day, someone said, it's a Twitter CEO, like that was a concept. Well, now it'd be an ex-CEO, but that doesn't sound right either. But, I would say we were going to do something, and it would just be like, for me as an ex-institutional person, I'd be like, it takes 1 week for me to get my lawyer on the phone. So that's 1 week no matter what to get something done. And everybody would expect it to be done the next day. And so I have been as silent as I could be so that I would not overpromise and underdeliver when it came to the Reg CF. So now I'm telling you, this is something that's tomorrow, a day away potentially from being real.
I was just looking for a rough timeline. You didn't have to be that specific.
Well, I'm excited that I can be that specific. And I'm also a guy who'll say it off the cuff when I see the real opportunity, because I am happy. I'm excited about it. I mean, look, if we raise from creators, friends, and family, JR, if we raise a couple of $100,000 of the first million, the way a Reg CF works is there's multiple stages of it. So like the first stage tomorrow is we can take in up to $125,000, and then $124,000. I'm being hand signaled by my other financial guide person. They're very important that I speak correctly on these things. You can bring in $124,000, and then from there you go to about 1.24 million, so a lot of the first people in get to be in tomorrow, and then starting tomorrow. And a lot of my friends and family will, and I'll tell everybody when it's up and live. And like I said, you can buy $100, you can buy $1,000, you can buy whatever you want. And there's tiers, and the people who invest more get bonus shares in the technology company, and it's a brand new investment, and you don't have to be a created shareholder to invest in it. But ostensibly, after the 1.24 million is raised, then we would open it up to a total of 5 million. And so from there, I can tell you that if we just raised the original 124,000, that's a crazy milestone. What we're talking about doing both with this and even the OG, because the OG, while I think Genius is doing a very smart thing and recognizing the same thing that I do, that the individual parts are significantly more valuable than the whole when the whole is being judged not by the value intrinsic, but by the technical factors of the people who are selling stock. And so it's my perception that the minute we do this first Reg CF, it's like, I saw there's a new Willy Wonka coming out. It's like the golden ticket in Willy Wonka, meaning if you're able to raise money this way by breaking out a subsidiary like we have that's got real, I mean, the subsidiary essentially makes money. It's cash flow break even, VOCL Inc. It's created Inc. That right now as a whole cannot make money and burns about, you know, 150K a month. That's just the created. And now once we break it down, it's going to be a very different story. And so I'm hoping to see that first 124,000 done pretty quickly. And I'll keep everybody posted, and then we'll open it up even further. But I'm looking forward to the real core believers responding to that first one. Thank you, JR, for the question. I hope that answered it.
Yes, thank you.
Tall Frenchie has the mic, followed by Erica.
Tall Frenchie.
Hi, yes. I'm going to start off with saying that I am walking my dog, so I believe this is the future of how executive leadership of organizations can communicate with shareholders, so I'm very much on board for this style of communication. With that being said, we spoke a lot about shareholders. My belief in organizations that are the most successful prioritize delighting their customers, then their employees, and then the shareholders. My first question would be, do you agree with that, Jeremy? The second would be, how are you delighting, I would love if you could just give maybe 2 or 3 examples for each, the customers, employees, and I know we've already discussed shareholders.
Sure. First, fabulous question, and your first point about appreciating these kind of communications, the more that I hear such great questions, the more I want to do it. It's right. It's like energy feedback. The more you folks feed those type of very thoughtful questions to me, the more excited I get to be on these calls. So, you know, I love philosophical questions like this. I can easily tell you that, and they'll tell you that I put my employees last of that 3 people, right? Because we service you. We service our customers. So we would never put ourselves in front of our customers. And we're a tight group of about 15 people. And as a group of 15, you know, we look at the shareholders, as I've articulated it to you, as really kind of the lifeline of the company. Meaning, look, our product, so that we, you know, can talk specifically to that, is one where creators are really, as I said earlier, the most important part of the puzzle, because they provide the greatest feedback loop. They remain my North Star metric. And so we look at creators, and those are our customers. So our customers are our creators. That's why, you know, as John Shankman brought up, he knows that the one thing that VOCL doesn't do is offer what we, from the very beginning, decided would be disruptive advertising for the type of content that we publish. And so from there, I think it starts first with the customer. I think after with the creator, but I think it's a very contextual discussion as to whether one is a priority over the other. The shareholder drives the customer's ability, which is the creator's ability to maintain the platform. I can assure you that we as employees are last on that list. I am not someone, I mean, first of all, let's be clear, if you read my press release, the hardest thing I've gone through is since the microcap space really lost its momentum and the whole market collapsed, where stocks are down like 95% in free fall. Since then, of what was probably about, 50 people, we've let 35 go. And I should say, of the 15 that are left, 5 are part-time. I mean, there's really only 10 pros that run the company, We have an amazing development team that our internal data and development team work with in Australia. That team consists of another 5 to 10 people. But all of us are the type of people who put the creator and the shareholder ahead of ourselves. I mean, my partners and I have gone months at times without payroll when we struggled to keep this company afloat over all the cycles it's been through. And so we always put ourselves last. That's the answer to that question. What was the second part of the question? I was going to give you 3 examples, right, of what...
Of how you delight each, yeah. So and
Sure.
I'm perfectly fine with your response. So I appreciate that. And yes, it was just examples of the how. I agree with your
Right.
creators.
So I think the how really takes people understanding what the VOCL platform really is. I mean, it's an environment for creators to monetize their content. That was kind of like the original way we phrased it. And we weren't offering just monetization. We were offering an ability to grow your audience. And from there, VOCL came up with many amazing ways to do that for the creator. And there are just thousands upon thousands of articles out there about VOCL and whether, what kind of platform it is. But I'll briefly explain that for the creators, they get a read algorithm that pays them for their content. They can take tips and other payment forms that we keep different percentages of depending on what tier of creator they are, whether they're a premium plan creator. A premium brand creator pays $10 a month. That number fluctuates. You can back into it from our quarterly numbers of anywhere between 15 to 20,000 at numerous different payment structures with 2 million freemium creators. And those freemium creators convert regularly without any pay-to-play model. Organically, they convert to premium because they're interested in participating in whether it's the tips, whether it's monthly pledges and subscriptions, whether it's read algorithm payments, or just as I think one of our biggest things we do is we have challenges that we create that are competitions, and we've done hundreds of them. And not only do our creators love participating in them, they love watching the people in their community win it. Our customers love VOCL because it's a community where they can connect with other creators, make money, and grow their audience, which is really the most important thing. So that's the delighting of the creator. I can't seem to delight shareholders. That's reflected in where my stock is trading. I mean, I try to do the best I can. I get attacked a lot, and I don't care. It doesn't impact me. What impacts me is the fact that I see people who are attacking who just don't have the truth. And I see other horrible things in the space. I see pumpers and dumpers villainizing individuals in the microcap space regularly on Twitter, bullying them. Horrible shit. And, I can't rip the person out of the Twitter thing and grab him by his gullet. But what I can do is be as tremendously transparent, honest, and forthright with my shareholder community as my team is. My partners write regularly on VOCL. My collaborators are very committed. And in the end, we're here for our shareholders. We wake up every morning and repeat, and we get paid barely anything these days because we can barely afford to make it through the next day, often for ourselves. But we do it because we believe in you, our shareholders. We've gone through all this planning and this Reg CF structure because I'm going to find out whether the shareholders believe in us when we put out this Reg CF. If I'm right and there's a lot of taking of it, then we've discovered a way out here, and then shareholders will delight. So I try to delight shareholders both by communicating and actually structuring real plans. Now my employees, how do I delight them? I try to tell them entertaining stories and good jokes about times that I've seen that are much worse than today. But in the hard truth of it, out in the business world today, this is about as hard as I've seen it. And so I would tell you that my inclination is to always be honest and be someone of integrity with them and be someone who leads by example. And I think the 10 key employees that rally around this company know that I will never stop. I saw, again, just for a moment of brevity, since we've been talking about so many intense things, and so many of my employees are out here on the floor with me listening. I recently watched Sisu on, I think it's HBO or Max, Sisu. And Sisu is a movie about the Nazis in Finland. And the Sisu movie definition is a concept described as stoic determination, Sisu, tenacity for purpose, grit, resilience, hardiness. And they say that it's one that can kind of only roughly be translated into these things because the word Sisu is specific to that type of sustainability. And so I try to be Sisu for my people and for my employees. And I think they know I'm Sisu, that I am determined and I won't give up. And that's how I try to delight them. Any other questions that we can answer?
Erica joined the speaker.
My partner and my friend Erica Wagner, who must have her own very interesting perspective on the VOCL platform that perhaps people can hear.
Well, that's what I wanted to say something about. Hello, Jeremy. This has been really fascinating to listen to, and I wanted to speak not just as your friend and your partner and someone who's on the board of directors, but also as a creator. You know, I am a creator on the VOCL platform. I love that question about how do you delight your customers? And I just wanted to say something about my experience, you know, as a customer and why I think this is a platform to invest in. I've been a writer for decades. I have a lot of platforms. I write books, I write for newspapers, but I also write on VOCL. And I know Jeremy and Justin too, you'll agree with me when I say that the quality of engagement that I see on VOCL is really extraordinary. And our creators are not just able to monetize their content, but they're also able and willing to support each other. And I can say, as a writer, as a creator, that's in itself an incredibly valuable commodity. And I think when you consider our platform alongside its, let's call them competitors, Medium and Substack, you were talking about them, I think that's really, you know, one of our unique qualities is the kind of integrated communitarian nature of the VOCL platform. I'd also like to talk about, you know, at this point, from content that's appeared on our platform, we've produced 2 seasons of a podcast, we've published a book. There are all kinds of opportunities for our creators that are, you know, not just that go beyond the platform. And I think that's really important to stress. But really what I wanted to say is I am delighted as a creator, as a customer of VOCL. And, you know, that's where I think our strength lies.
I appreciate those comments so much, Erica, and particularly, you know, the fact that you know, as I try to answer these questions, it's so helpful when someone like you can remind me of What are those other value props that we offer to so many creators? And knowing that you, with your level of understanding of this, have come to be a regular contributor on the platform has, been really one of the validating aspects of the creation of VOCL. Are there any other questions? The mic one? Sure.
Andrew Corona, he's connecting.
Andrew.
Hey Jimmy, how you doing?
I'm good, Andrew. Thank you for joining today.
Thank you. So just a quick question. So you said earlier about the Reg CF and then to see how much your investors trust you. So let's say I'm one of the people, I've been down like 95%.
Yep.
And I know I won't be participating in the Reg CF for raising money. So what would the next plan be if you would not see the expected numbers in raising the 124, the $5 million dollars to, in the Reg CF?
Well, I think it's, first of all, from a probability standpoint, the probabilities of the first raise are significantly high. And just so people understand how this works, you kind of begin to understand what kind of individual is looking for that type of product. That's why you go in sort of the segmentations, because you're building sort of a data set for the type of individuals. And so from a probability standpoint, I'm pretty optimistic. And so whatever the plan B's, C's, and D's, some of which I can articulate to you, whatever those plans are, they, to me, have a lower probabilistic occurrence. But they would be things like selling the OG collection in its entirety, meaning, and while I have it audited and all of that, I could probably go to, in particular where it is, this type of collection would get auctioned off, would be in England or London in particular at one of the acclaimed auction houses that we've been speaking to. And I don't really want to sell it for $5 or $6 million. It's got a valuation that I think is amazing and right now is far from recognized in the stock. But if it's not going to be recognized in the stock, then I'm not sure that I have a choice, even though I have already said that my goal is to spin it out and give it to shareholders. If I think that I can't raise money through any of these other situations, then the OG spin out isn't going to be successful either, because they're all part of the same plan. They're all part of coming off of these legacy toxic structures that plague the market and the algorithmic naked short selling that the market making systems are trained to do. And so there's, are there other opportunities? Sure. I could do a pipe. That's a plan D. But that's going to be up to the shareholders, meaning I'm going to communicate like this all the time with the shareholders. And so if shareholders don't want to do what the CEO or the board is recommending to literally save the value of their stock, then I have to do what's in the interest of maintaining the survival of the company so that there still is a company for those who stick. Now, when we're talking about a stock that's trading at a $3.5 million market cap, I don't get too worried about impact in that market. I'm actually finding when I look at some of those stocks that have had to do their plan D or E because they don't have as sophisticated a plan as we do, some of those strategies are actually beginning to work. Now, maybe that's a sign that we've just squeezed, like it's when you say, we all say it so nonchalantly, I'm down 95%. It's because the first 100 times we said it, we were so hurt by it that we've all become numb to it. I'm down 95% in probably my own stock, as well as 10 other names. And I speak to 10 other CEOs who I don't even have investments in, and they tell me about their stocks being down. I could rattle off right now, right on this call, I could rattle off 50 just off the top of my head. And that's what sometimes when people say, what do you do all day? One of the things I have to do is stay on top of all this stuff so that I understand it. So the answer to your question is, I've got plans B, C, and D, but Right now, at this moment in time, my head is far from that, far from it, because that's not what the probability says. The probability says that our 2 million creators and our current shareholder base believes in the fundamental business and understands that today, if you want to be in a microcap or small cap name, you'd best be in a name that has a scalable business, particularly tech. That's my advice. I hope that was helpful. Are there any other? Here's a question from Funt Claps. Will you be doing the CF registration as OTC or uplisted? Well, that's a good question. That's a good question, but it's far off, right? Like first we got to do the Reg CF, and then I got to see what's the most attractive method for giving everybody the ability to monetize that. So that's my answer to that. I don't really have a time frame. Are there any other questions? Oh, please, a creator. I love to have a creator ask a question. Fabian, you have the mic when it gets connected to you. Let's see. Thank you for stopping by. Is that a question? Is there a question? Is he able to connect? Fabian, it may be your audio. You have to unmute yourself, I think.
Apologies.
No problem. No problem.
Pleased to meet you.
Pleased to meet you. I see you've published 587 stories.
Yes, I have.
You know, you are exactly what my board member and friend Erica Wagner was talking about. You're one of the reasons why we create the platform. Thank you for being that person.
I want to ask you a question, and this is a thing that my parents have actually talked with me about. When you're looking at a company that is also publicly traded as a stock, there's two different things. There's a broken stock, and then there's a broken company. And so one of the questions is this company a broken stock, or is it a broken company? As a VOCL creator, I myself have seen a few issues here or there, and we all can talk about the short and sweet challenge that happened recently, in which a lot of VOCL creators felt that they had been betrayed because the rules were not followed by the own judges. And then even then, when they go and remedy the situation, a mistake still gets through. As Confucius says, a man who makes a mistake and does not correct it has made another mistake. That can be one example about creator frustration with the platform. But another thing is that your company, when I go to search it, such as when I go to YouTube, I see people about making money on VOCL media with AI writing, AI tools. Is VOCL a scam? The first thing I don't see is the official company's YouTube channel. Chipotle Mexican Grill has an official company YouTube channel. Tesla, you search them, they have an official company YouTube channel. And if we were to go back to the topic of broken stock versus broken company, you can, give me a moment, how do I phrase this? There was a scare they had with E. coli, and the stock price went down. And my dad told me he was looking at that, and he says it was just restricted to one location. And so even if they were to remove lettuce off the board entirely, because that's where the scare happened, it would still provide a good product, a good service to people. And that's what they did. And so the stock was broken due to the media scare. And media scares will happen all the time, like Ford with the Ford Pinto and tons of other things. And so,
Well, wait. So I get your question. So let's go back to the first. Let's go back to the first part. The first part's easy. I mean, the business is by far not broken. The stock is broken, and the stock trades where it does for a whole series of much more complex discussions, some of which we've discussed here today. It's not the same as a stock that breaks because of a media story or an untruth or a rumor. This is due to much more, in my humble opinion, nefarious forces. And so my desire has been, and I've worked on it now for 6 months, is how do we separate the most valued assets from the holding company such that the holding company becomes more like what I had originally envisioned it, which was a portfolio, in this case, of what will be its first 4 distinct companies, and that those companies can maintain their own independent value and eventually trade independently. Now, that's my answer to that. You're dealing with a fundamentally great company and a broken stock, but you're not really just dealing with a broken stock. That would really be to, I think, be too direct about it. What you're really dealing with is it's a broken.
It's a stock that's being broken
It-
by corrupt forces.
Right, but it's a broken market, meaning it's a broken regulatory system, it's a broken back office, it's a broken SEC, it's a broken government oversight. There are a lot of things broken in this country, and in particular in this financial field. And people have to be transparent about it. Now let's get to one of the funner part for me to answer, which is the perceptions of challenges. We've done, how many challenges have we done? I'm asking one of my, hold on one second, gentlemen. We've done over 200 challenges. There have been over, how many? Oh, let me take a moment first and explain to the community here listening in what a challenge is. It goes back to the previous question that was asked about one of the things that VOCL creators appreciate is the ability to participate in challenges. Challenges are competitions in whether it's writing, it could be creating videos, it could be anything. Anyway, they get paid out for that. Now, you know, there are always going to be mistakes that get made when you have 200 people processing 75,000 entries and you have teams of people trying to get to a certain point, let's say the top 10 stories. I mean, I don't know. I watch America's Got Talent. It's one of my vices, my innocent vices. Sometimes I can't imagine who the hell gets through. I don't know how that happens. And then, yeah, sure, do I want to blame Howie Mandel or do I want to blame one of the judges? I don't know. Like, I mean, to just get, to get too wrapped up in any one problem that occurred, it's not really, I appreciate the thoughts, but quite frankly, there are tons of people who try to do this correctly as often as they can. I think my favorite part of your commentary was the Confucius one, having been a philosophy major in college. More on the logic side, I was more a Socratic type of guy. I enjoyed a dabble in Sun Tzu's Art of War, and I felt like I lived through Dante's Inferno the last couple of years. But putting all that aside, you're right. When we make a mistake, we try to fix it. Now, are we fixing is not, fixing a mistake in our system, it's not like changing a screw. And, I got a Phillips head and I should have had a straight. Nope. It could take months to fix something, and it could take 5 stages to fix something, and it could take 3 developers to fix something. I think what you should take away from it, Fabian, is that no matter what, we are working in the interest of creators. And no matter what, this is not a broken company. And no matter what, I won't give up until I feel that shareholders have given up. And if I can get the creators and the world at large around us to understand the plan we're trying to execute, it will not only represent the solution for our company, it will have been a good thing because it will represent the solution for hundreds of peers of mine that are struggling in this marketplace.
I appreciate that answer.
Thank you,
I also
Dave.
appreciate how vocal you are. But one of the things that I wish that you were a bit more about is being a bit more vocal on other platforms and making sure that vocal has an established voice on other platforms.
Fabian, you're 100% right. And it is why we are recording this as a video and we'll be posting it on a YouTube channel. It's why, look,
Thank you.
we definitely know what you're saying. I literally, one of the marketing people we worked with said I need to do a Reg CF dance on TikTok where I explain a Reg CF while I dance and that would help. And I was like, I don't think I'm doing that one. But I do agree with you that I have to do much, much more out there, and I am going to start doing it, and I hope that all of you can help spread the word that we're doing it. We expect a lot more as we introduce more information about the Reg CF. We expect to do it across a broad range of platforms, and by doing so, we'll educate the environment. Thanks, Davian. Who's next?
Garwood Bacon.
Please. You have the mic, Garwood? Hey.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
Great. I had a question actually that came up after listening to a previous speaker. For the Reg CF, like that sounds like Plan A. For Plan A, it sounds like get Reg CF. I guess approved by the SEC. Is that the first step?
Nope, it's already been, meaning Reg CF, the first step is literally tomorrow morning, if everything goes accordingly, for me to put out a press release that the Reg CF really is live. And there will be a link. Now, this Reg CF, just so you know, is the first of, like I said, a few Reg CF processes. So the first one will be the availability to access it tomorrow, not in what I would say is the prettiest user experience. And because we're a very design-focused group, that's why for this first 125,000, again, in lots of anybody can put any amount of money in, it'll explain exactly how the security works. It's a very attractive security, which unfortunately, until I make it live, I can't give you the details of. It's specific to the VOCL platform, so we expect hopefully a lot of our VOCL creators, and there are millions of them, will participate. And I think that we file what's called a Form C with the SEC, and that process is in the final stages, and otherwise we're free to move forward. So that's why I said to the other individual, look, we could talk about Plan B, C's, or D's, but we're 24 hours from launching Plan A. And I don't think that, and I don't think the market even, right now, that's why we're gonna rush to 8K this entire thing, probably this entire thing with the recording. Because that's it. It starts tomorrow.
Right, and then the first goal is 125,000.
Yep.
And so if that goes through, so I guess it's building up to the release of the OG collection, right? Like you're trying to get to a point where we the reg.
Well, hold on 1 second so I can check with my compliance person sitting next to me. Hold on 1 second. May I discuss the OG, and then you can also put whatever I say into the 8K?
The OG's public info. Go ahead.
But the timing. I expect to put out a significant press release early next week because we've completed the most important components of the OG, and I'm going to move forward with a similar Reg CF for the OG. It's a very different type of company. It's both a very valuable physical asset, and it's also got tremendous IP value. And then finally, it's for what you believe in or don't relative to Web 3.0 and its future. It has and will house all of our Web 3.0 assets related to it. And that OG, yes, that would be, so I'm holding this call because I'm in a position finally where when people say to me, when are you doing this and when are you doing that and why isn't it already done, where I could go, well, tomorrow I'm doing this and Monday I'm doing that, and that's the end of the discussion. From there you will all then see, am I right or wrong? Did I come up with a plan, or am I just, is it just another year of fighting against, the brutal forces that we got to fight against?
Absolutely. So my other question had to do with
the idea of either buying more stock, vocal stock, or is it better for somebody who believes in the company to do the Reg CF?
Okay, I will be very clear in my answer to this.
Sure.
I don't like to tell people to buy or sell the common stock.
Oh, yeah,
But no. I know you understand. I'm just giving you this sort of general thesis because I do tell people all the time that I think the stock is very undervalued. But I always, when I try to communicate, I learned very early on as a manager that often when I wasn't getting the result that I wanted, it wasn't because of the employee, it was because of my inability to communicate what it was that I wanted. And so I like to be as crystal clear as I can, particularly with retail investors. Retail investors who have a position in created stock should invest in the Reg CF at this time. Now, there's always going to be some buyers in the stock during the Reg CF period because the success of the Reg CF implies the success of the stock, of the publicly traded stock. Because again, to reiterate, when we raise money in the Reg CF, it will be the solution for taking in capital without diluting the common. And the perception of dilution of the common is why the algos are so empowered to constantly fill demand for the stock irrespective of supply, because they don't check a book for that. The algos just sell. And I want to be clear about that one actually for everybody listening. I do not believe in the villainization on Twitter of individuals and groups of individuals making accusations about them that don't have enough evidence to be carried out like that. That's the kind of villainization that went on 50, 60 years ago with my ancestors in another part of the world. And that kind of villainizing where you blame someone for someone's financial losses at the scope and the level that certain people are being blamed must come to an end. The truth is that the market-making algorithms, which I helped build, are the problem. They will fill demand until demand overwhelms supply. And the thing that we're trying to do by creating an outlet for people to own a piece of VOCL Inc. is the same outlet that will take the pressure off the common. And so what I'd say to you is, as you buy the Reg CF, if you see that I'm correct and that the stock elevates as it becomes known that the Reg CF financing directly into VOCL is successful, yeah, then I'd load the boat on the common because that would freak the whole freaking market out if they saw that. Because so many of you on this phone call know this market space. We've never seen this concept of what we're going to launch tomorrow morning. I've never seen an OTC company do it, or a small cap ever sell off a piece of its subsidiary directly. Now that we're very well positioned. Part of that problem is, right, like you couldn't do this necessarily with a biotech company in an early stage development of a cancer drug, because we have 2 million creators on our platform, right? Like if of the 2 million, 5,000 of them each did $500, right?
Right.
That's $2.5 million right there. And they already, a lot of those they already spend money on the platform. Why wouldn't they want to own a piece of it?
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's an ingenious idea there. I watched the video that you posted, to take a look at the other day. I was like, wow, that's a great idea. I guess I'm sorry I joined halfway through. So
sure, please ask any questions.
Sure. So with investing with the Reg CF, how is that? Is there any value to it to the person
buying it like a security? I'm just confused.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And what I'll say is, the amount of communication I will be doing over the next month, it would not surprise me if I was holding a Twitter Space call every 2 days, because there are going to be so many creators and so many people who have so many questions about it. But what I can tell you now is that tomorrow morning I will explain it. Hopefully tomorrow morning, I am being told by everybody around me, I can say that tomorrow morning I will be able to explain it in much more certainty. And perhaps, literally, maybe we'll schedule a Twitter Space. Twitter, I keep doing that, an X Space. Everybody, every time I say Twitter, everybody puts their fingers together to make an X to remind me to stop saying Twitter. Yes, we will. I think we will do that. I think we will do a Twitter Space tomorrow at post the announcement, because there's going to be a ton of, and I think we'll schedule it tonight. We'll put a schedule. That's a very. Thank you for helping me see that thread. We're definitely going to put up a Twitter Space tomorrow. I love your transparency, where you're like at the end. I do that also, like with people when they explain something. I go, listen, I literally just don't understand it. If you could just explain it again. Yeah. So I'm gonna explain it tomorrow, where I feel like we can do it in a productive way, where I can say, if you're at a computer, go to your computer, take a look right here, and this is what you do. Remember, I feel like somebody who I'm like inviting into my apartment and I didn't clean up my apartment, and I say, just remember when you come to the site, it's beautiful. At the $125,000 level, I haven't turned it into like, the Taj Mahal. It's just a website, and it's done through the SEC. It's done after the SEC filing, and it will explain to you exactly how the broker-dealer that's overseeing it has it structured. And we're not the first ones to do it as a concept. We're the first ones to do it this way in the OTC space to see whether it works. And I'll explain all the tiers and whether you're investing $100, what happens, or whether you're investing $10,000, what happens. I'll go through it all on the call.
Oh, that's great. I appreciate that. I guess I just have one more question.
Sure.
I'm sorry.
Sure, please. Don't apologize.
So, like, what is, I guess, best case scenario, or I guess conservative scenario? Like, when do you think the success of the Reg CF would translate into price movement in an upward direction in the market? I guess, like, if we, and I guess that's a tough one.
No, I have an answer. I mean, I've thought all these things through. Like, I mean, it's 2 a.m. before I finally go to sleep after I've thought through the 50th iteration of it. Like, I hear you. I think it takes like 30 days, mostly because it should be immediate, right? Like, when I turn to everybody and I go, we've taken in $50,000. That's a small amount. But let's say I say on a tweet, I go, we've taken in $50,000 through a Reg CF, right? But that's literally like saying the rocket ship just literally took off, right? It hasn't even separated yet. It hasn't gotten to the moon. Nobody's walked on the moon. But it's really like a rocket ship taking off, meaning it means something significant. And so the common should react immediately. Like, it should be like, holy shit, these guys are taking in money from their private venture and they're not going to have to come to us scumbags anymore for the toxic lending. Holy shit, why are we shorted? We're not going to get them to come in here and get us covered. And anybody who's out there listening would go, oh my God, the stock's cheap. Like, I have a new guy this week recently called me, told me he bought like 1 million shares. New guy. Yeah, I'm like, listen, that's amazing. Thank you so much for reaching out and introducing yourself to me. I told him I wish every shareholder would just introduce themselves to me. Every single one of the 15,000 shareholders, I wish I knew and had a list of to talk to and address and bring on together just like this. And tomorrow morning we'll do it. Tomorrow afternoon we'll do it once we've tested the Reg CF platform. But 30 days is my answer to that.
Cool. I mean, I can tell you, like, I was part of the BBIG community, and they got a lawsuit going, but they it's awful, whatever. But they have this group of investors that are raising money. I mean, within like 5 days,
they made like $60,000, from 1,000 interested people. I mean, I could see, and that's a moonshot. Probably nothing's going to come out of the core system. But with a company that you have that is already working and doing well with creators and everything, I mean, I'd much rather put money towards that than that. So
Right.
I would expect that you're going to see a lot of success. That's just me.
I appreciate that sentiment, and what I would also say is, look, that's why I was honest with my answer. Like, the people who are listening to my Twitter Spaces, many of them have positions in the stock, and this will be one of the rare times I would say, even though the stock is very, very cheap, if you want that stock to go up, don't buy it, buy the Reg CF. Let's show the world together that we have broken the cycle, and let's then watch the stock go all the way up to $1. Then let's not have to reverse split it. Let's uplist it to the New York and complete what we've always talked about. That's my goal. Thank you, Gordon.
I appreciate what you're putting together here.
Thank you. Thank you. Other questions?
All right, I'll talk to you.
Thank you. Self-evident. How are you? And self-evident, I hope I've answered some of the questions I know you had. I tried to integrate a lot of them. You have to unmute self-evident.
There you go. Sorry. I got in late, so I'll have to go back and listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, you know.
Yeah, it happens. So the question I would have is, and I apologize if you can or can't talk about it, but so on the OG, is that now more going to be a CF type process, or is it still going to be a spin-out dividend type thing?
So let me take a moment. I mean, I'm just curious because it was one of the questions that came in, and I'm wondering if I can kill two birds with one stone. Can I just see any thumbs up for anybody who's familiar with the stock GNS, Genius, Roger Hamilton's company? I'm just trying to see if any of you have heard of that company. So GNS is spinning out a dividend. Good, JR, you have. So we're kind of doing something similar to them, but it's a little different. So let me kind of explain it like this. The reason why Roger is able to immediately put the company, the subsidiary out there is because the company that he's referring to was already trading on the merge, and that company had a float. Now, when it comes to the OG collection, the first step was the completion of the audit. The second step, and at that moment in time, remember, there's only two investors. At the moment that the audit is complete, which, as I said to everybody on this call, you will hear me, just like tomorrow we will have a big call on Reg CFs. Monday we will also schedule a call, or Tuesday I'm being told by the crowd here, that Tuesday we will schedule a call to explain OG in great detail and what the record date we're thinking is. But because with Genius, there was a pre-existing float, they could go to list it very quickly. We would have to first, which is what I would do, I would take some portion of the OG and I would offer it in a Reg CF such that we then achieve the shareholder base that you need to have, that Roger has already existing in the other company, which I don't have in OG. And so the schedule would be OG audit, file a S1, is that correct, my crowd over there? File an S1 for the OG, do a Reg CF at the same time or before the S1 over there? Now, we would do the Reg CF first, raise some money privately, not a ton, just so that we could have the proper amount of shareholders. Then we would file the S1 and we would distribute the rest of the entire shareholder, which I think I've said on this call, I expect to be over 50% of the OG collection will be spun out to the shareholders of Created. And that's the plan. And on Monday or Tuesday of next week, there'll be a call where I will literally be going through detail, which will come in conjunction with me filing an 8K around it.
Got it. Thank you.
Very good. And thank you for a lot of those very valuable questions. Thank you so many people on this call who sent in questions beforehand. So I don't really, I even some of the other questions that came up was, how does a Reg A fit in? And I would say that a Reg A is done much later in this process, not at this moment. And then, what was asked of me is, when will the company be break even? That was one of them that I wanted to talk about. VOCL Inc., the technology company that we are moving towards privatization, that company will be break even soon. I mean, 2-3 months, if not sooner. Once we separate all the financings, I will have another call where we will go through what I believe the revenue opportunity is versus the sort of growth value based on revenues versus the fundamental value of certain things like our Orbit investor social media platform. Are there any other? There were a few other questions I just got told. Hold on. Sure. Like I said, I'm here to take as many questions today. I won't get off until we don't have any more questions. You're muted, but once you're unmuted, what was the user's name? Optimuse. I watched the recent Transformers movie. That's what that reminds me of. It sucked. It was terrible. Rise of the Beasts, something like that. Optimuse, you're still muted. That joke, did you get that, Justin? It's like Optimus Prime. You got that?
I'm inviting Andrew.
Did you used to watch the cartoon when you were younger?
You're dating me, so.
I am? God damn. Andrew.
Yes. So back here, just a quick question. So how confident are you if the stock gets, to $1 or whatever, the naked show won't be able to bring it back down to where we are right now? Since last time it went to 170 after being like 4 cents, and now we're back at 3.5 cents.
Great question. And the answer is that we're back here because there was no alternative for financing out there to keep companies like ours alive. And once there is a separate entity, a separate alternative, then the thing that drives the algorithms, the algorithms they're machines. Again, I want to be very specific. I do not believe in the theory that there are hundreds upon hundreds of million shares naked shorted by individuals. Sure, there may be hundreds of millions of shares naked shorted, but they were done by machines, not individual mastermind people who sit behind a desk like something out of a James Bond movie where they're, figuring out how to destroy the microcap space. That's not a thing. It's machines. And the machines function based on certain inputs, right? So when we file an S1 like we just did, even though not a single one of those shares is being given, those shares are for the company. If the company needs to sell shares, those shares are not for something else. But when the machine sees the S1 filed, the machine makes a particular decision. Now, if the machine sees that those S1s are no longer coming, or the machine sees that on press releases there's more demand than supply, they go away. Not every stock is naked shorted. Some stocks are naked shorted. And by the way, many of the stocks that are naked shorted, it's very specific in nature how they got there. And so, this notion that I blame the naked shorts for running the stock down, yeah, they're a part of it, but that's not the main reason. And the entire microcap space has been clocked, and it certainly is not because of naked shorting. There have literally been complete and utter liquidations across the board. It doesn't matter whether it's BuzzFeed, Vimeo, GTII, GNS, even Facebook. There's just been blood on the streets. Naked shorts, described the way I'm describing them, are a part of the process. Naked shorts that some people blame as the entire reason for individual stocks' behaviors are not correct. Those individuals are part of communities that pump and dump. They take advantage of retail individuals, and they create a very, very difficult market environment for anybody to try to invest in microcap or small cap stocks in the venture exchanges. And that's too bad. And that's why we have created this plan, so that we can get out of the cycle and lead the way for other good companies. Are there any other questions? Well, I'm going to end the call there. I'm going to thank everybody for joining today. There will definitely be a recording of this as well as a video recording. Not sure how I look on the video recording here, but I look forward to reviewing it. And I want to thank everybody for joining today. And please let other people know to listen to this and to listen to our upcoming calls so that we can both pave the way for others and save Created as a company. Thank you.